In my last video, I talked about my ownership experience of the SantaCruz Hightower V1 after 7 years. So, voila! Santa Cruz is having a sale because it is the end of the season and they've just come out with the V4 Hightower frame design. So I decided to get this Hightower V3. I feel like it was a great deal. This bike costs less than the MSRP of the V1 back in 2017. So I've been making a joke that I've beat inflation by buying this bike. But this is the C-level carbon frame like I talked about. One of the main features that I was looking for on new bikes was the internal frame storage.
Don't forget to air out that frame storage after washing your bike. It is not waterproof and it will hold water if you don't let it air out.
If you've seen my previous videos, you saw that on my Hightower V1, I ran a frame bag up here. With the internal frame storage, I've been able to move my tube and CO2 canisters, my multi-tool, and tire levers, zip ties, and that's about it. All those things into this internal frame storage. I would say that it is a little bit of a gimmick. I wouldn't base your purchase on only getting a bike with internal frame storage. Nowadays they have a lot of tool wraps that you can easily strap to the frame, and I believe those would work just as well. One of the first things I noticed when jumping on this V3 frame is the steeper C-tube angle. All the modern bikes come with a steeper C-tube angle these days, around 76 degrees I believe it is, or even 77, and when climbing uphill you can really tell how much that helps. You just feel in a better, upright, more powerful position when riding up climbs. Like I talked about in my video once again with the V1, I was kind of looking for a bigger bike, and all the bikes have gotten bigger to where I've got an extra large again here, being 6'2", and this bike honestly just fits me better. The longer reach and definitely the higher stack height allows me to have the bars in a position that I feel more comfortable in. And the craze back in 2017 was with the 29er wheels getting the chain stays short, like 26-inch chain stays were. But honestly, having the little bit longer chain stay, size specific on these new high towers, I feel puts me in a more balanced position when riding. Then another big complaint I had with the Hightower V1 was the pedal feedback due to the higher anti-squat in the suspension. This bike definitely has less pedal feedback. It's not gone away for sure, and it still feels like a Santa Cruz. When you step on the pedals, it does stiffen up pretty good, and it still feels very efficient to me. But there is definitely on the square edge hits, the little chattery like things, it does seem to roll over it better in my opinion. Overall, it still rides like a Santa Cruz. I feel like, at least with my Santa Cruz V1 and a few of the Santa Cruz I had demoed before that, their suspension design, the VPP, control pivot point suspension design, really likes to stay on the ground. It can be more of an effort to bunny hop the bike, but I do feel like with this new layout, it does feel poppy off of jumps. When you push into a takeoff of a jump, it really does spring back then. But overall, it still really likes to hug the ground. So overall, I do enjoy the suspension design better after 148 miles of riding and about a month and a half of ownership, that this suspension design feels better over rougher square edge terrain. Finally, a few things I don't like about this bike is it coming with the Maxxis 3C tires, which has nothing to do with Santa Cruz frame design necessarily, but these C3 tires, for me, I have 148 miles and they're already showing significant wear. And with the prices of tires these days, I'd rather them just have the regular compound, the EXO without the C3. That way it would last longer. And I don't feel the traction benefits really of having the softer rubber on the side knobs. I bought this bike from Jensen USA, and when the bike arrived, the front brake rotor was bent. It came with a 200mm rotor, and I couldn't quite get it straightened out. So I thought that was the problem that I was having with the front brakes rubbing. So I switched that out with one of the 180mm rotors that I had, and I still had the brake rubbing problem. In the end, it was the springs, the metal springs that go between the brake pads. They were smushed in enough to where they were rattling and not keeping the brake pads in place while riding. So I just separated those springs a little bit, like just overextended them to where they would be pushing out on the brake pads, and that has seemed to fix that problem. So like I said, this bike came with the 200mm rotor, and I bought it through Jensen USA. They were nice enough to, well, I don't know, I feel like they should have taken the rotor off when shipping it, but they did send me another 200mm rotor to replace the one that had gotten bent. Awesome frame protection, but I still had to add more here because the chain was still making some minor scratches to the paint. In conclusion, I am really happy with my purchase of the SantaCruz Hightower V3. The new suspension design and newer frame geometry is making me fall more and more in love with this bike every time I ride it. After 148 miles, I really am happy with this purchase, and just knowing the frame quality, lifetime frame warranty, and lifetime bearing replacement also come along with this frame. I'm going to be riding this bike for another 7 years at least, based on my experience with the SantaCruz Hightower V1. Thank you for watching, and if you wish to see more videos, please subscribe.